All right, guys, welcome into the Carolina film review for this week. I'm going to start out by looking at the offense first. The offense played very, very well for the majority of the game. They only had a few 3-and-outs kind of in the second half, but for most of the game, the offense played very, very well. So I'm going to highlight most of the things that they did well, some of the missed opportunities that they had as well. But we're going to start out by looking at some of the play action setup that they're doing at the very beginning of the game and some of the motions and counter motions that they like to use. At least they've been using it a ton lately in the last few weeks in order to kind of get Aaron Jones these cutback lanes. So we're going to see some good receiver blocking. We're going to see some nice cutbacks by Aaron Jones, and we're going to see these tight ends kind of motioning in the backfield, countering back, and then obviously that is going to lead to some big runs. So the first play here is just going to be kind of that motion kick out as well. And we're going to be able to see, I believe it's Wicks on this play. So Wicks is here, and obviously he's going to be the one kind of blocking out. But one of the things that you're going to notice, LaFleur does this a lot, is using those motions. So we've got DeGuara. He's going to basically come in, and then he's going to kind of rubber band back. So in the West Coast offense, that's essentially called a counter, right? The counter motion. So you fake like you're basically going across, and then you're going to come back, and he's going to then kick out, right? So he's going to kind of lead block, and Aaron Jones is going to have to kind of cut back behind him as the lead blocker, right? So we're going to let this play out. We'll clear the screen, let this play out. There we go. We got DeGuara coming in motion, and then Aaron Jones with a nice cutback. And of course, you've got Wicks with a nice block downfield. And the receivers did a very, very good job of blocking downfield. So this is going to be one of those counter motions. You're going to see DeGuara come across. There he is. And then he's going to kind of wrap back, get that kick out on the edge. So they basically leave that guy unblocked. If there's a seam that pops open, then Jones can take it, but it's a design cutback. Same thing here. Opposite side, you've got a counter motion to the other side, but this time you're going to see Jenkins is going to pull. So you've got a power play. So they've showed that counter motion previously, right? And now you're going to have the left guard essentially pull around and lead block. And the other highlight that we want to look at here is looking at Malik Heath, who is downfield, right? So he does a very good job of getting a block on the second level, and that's going to break Jones free. So let's have this play out here. You can see Heath gets a nice block. Obviously, he gets pushed back a little bit, but he's engaged long enough that it's going to spring Jones. And Jones is very, very elusive, which is something that, you know, the Packers have been missing, is having this running back that is elusive and can make people miss. And you're going to see that there. Makes the guy miss, and he's off to the races. But you can see one thing that I really love about this team is if we just kind of go back to Heath, he's made his little block, but he's already celebrating because they've made a big play. So one thing I've noticed with these guys is just they love to cheer each other on. So here you're going to have that motion across. So you have that counter motion, goes back out, comes to kick out Kraft, Jenkins, Heath, all with amazing blocks, and that springs Jones free just because he has to make one guy miss. All right, next thing that we're going to see here is just that counter motion again. So this is something that they've showed multiple times. We've seen it on these 3 plays alone. You have somebody come in, wrap back out, and they've shown this kickback, the kick out, 3 times at least up to this point, because this is within the first drive. So that is obviously going to be something that Carolina is going to be worried about, and you want to check the next level here. The next level here is going to be the linebackers. Look at the play action of what that does, because both of these guys basically look at the quarterback. They see that it's going to be a handoff, and the middle of the field is going to be wide open. All right, so let's play this. And Bo Melton right here, perfect, wide open in a cover 3, and they find the zone. And from this other angle, that's when you're really going to see how much space this actually gets love. because they've been doing counter motion, here it is, coming in. You can already see this backer here. He's basically thinking that, oh, it's going to be a cutback. They've shown us this, 3 times already. So he's come up, 54's come up, 0 has come up. They realize now it's a pass, but at this point it's too late, right? So if we keep an eye on 54 here, he's not going to have enough time to turn around and get to Melton and stop this, right? And here we go. Perfect pass. Nobody around him, and an easy completion for Love. So that's what setting up that kind of play action, doing the same run plays over and over again, can give an offense later on. All right, the next thing that I would kind of want to highlight here is looking at Carolina. They played a lot of middle of the field open. So in the football world, we call it MOFO. So you've got MOFO, which is basically meaning that it's middle of the field open, and then you've got middle of the field closed. And this is what you're going to see with essentially a cover 2 or a cover 4. And then middle of the field closed is generally going to be a cover 1 or a cover 3. Right? So if we're looking at that, essentially a middle of the field open, you can see this space here in the middle of the field is open because you have 2 high safeties. If it was a closed look, you would have a single high safety, which is basically showing it's either cover 1 or it's cover 3. And here, again, you've got 1 high, 2 high safeties. Generally, a 2 high look, you're going to get them, looking back and covering a deep half of the field, right? Or Carolina, what they like to do is they rotate these safeties, right? So they essentially have a rotation where this is a cover 3 look, but it's showing a 2 high look, and you've got deep third, deep third, deep third. But on this particular play, that's not what they do. They don't do a rotation, and we're going to see that the middle of the field is just going to be wide open because Carolina is going to blitz. We have a blitz that's off the edge here. So you've got pressure coming off that left side, and it looks like the protection was already slid. Right, so it seems like Love knew this pressure was coming. He recognized it pre-snap, and he's adjusted to have a slide. Right, so he's slid out his halfback, and then the 2 left tackle to left guard are also sliding out, ready to pick up the guys on the edge. And because they're blitzing, they're essentially going to be a man down. So Melton is going to do a good job of getting in space here, and we're going to see it on the play after this. There you go. Really nice throw. Not an ideal throwing position by Love, but it's something that, he does very well with those off-platform throws. I mean, he needs to be a little bit more consistent with it, but he does have a pretty good arm, and you're going to see it more from this view here. So good job by Melton. You can barely see his helmet here, but essentially, he is running behind this zone defender. Right? If they're in zone, their eyes are on the quarterback, and they want to make sure that, they're covering their space. But if you run behind the zone defender, it forces the guy who's deep to kind of play up and try to make a play. And you see that with Von Bell, has to come up and try to break it up. But Bo Melton does a very good job of catching that. And of course, Bo Melton is hyped. Now, same thing here. You're going to have a 2 high look. You've got 2 high safeties, right? Pausing it just before the snap. 2 high safeties. And then you're going to have a pressure look. And normally what you want to do against this pressure look is you're going to want to find wherever the blitzer is coming from, right? So we're going to have a blitz from here. And we're going to have 2 routes. I don't know if this was a mistake, but essentially you're going to have 2 people that are going to come in and run a bench route, which is essentially just going to the middle of the field. And you're going to see that because there is pressure, it's essentially a cover 0 look, which is what a lot of defenses have been doing lately. You're going to have a predetermined throw. Love sees the leverage. So I'll explain, this leverage. Essentially, Horn here, this DB is on the inside of Kraft here. And he knows that he has an out-breaking route at the marker. So by having that outbreaking route, Love is confident that he's going to be able to get this 1v1 matchup and he's going to get that play, right? So I think this time Love was confident and he knew that he had this one-on-one matchup. It looks like it's man. There's going to be a blitz, and essentially, you know, he wants to get this one-on-one matchup, but he's not going to be able to actually complete the pass. So let's freeze it here. He's already setting, not out of his break yet, and he's going to be breaking and catching this, you know, beyond the marker, but it's going to be an incomplete pass. Whereas if Love hadn't predetermined, he would have had an easy first down in the middle of the field because they messed up on their coverage down here. You can see you have two guys basically going for this receiver, and 26 is supposed to be on 87, and this guy's basically messed up, right? He should be taking that inside receiver, but he's ran the complete opposite direction. So Wicks is wide open, and that's one of the things that we missed. It's Kraft in the hands, but unfortunately it's incomplete. And from this view, it is a little bit more insane. Nice throw, good spiral. And we don't get to see the catch, or the catch attempt rather. But then that leads to a field goal. All right, so this is the next play that I want to look at and try to show you some of the missed opportunities as well by Samori Toure. Toure hasn't been getting a lot of playing time, and you've seen Bo Melton getting a lot more playing time, and that's partially because Bo Melton has been playing very, very well. You've seen it already in some of the clips. He's, you know, willing to get into the middle of the field, not afraid to get hit, and he gets super hyped, and that's one thing that this team does really, really well. So you're going to have this kind of counter orbit motion. So Toure's come around, and it's going to be a swing pass, right? So that motion is essentially bringing Toure free because you're going to have a blitzer off the edge, and instead of somebody covering Toure, he's going to be wide open. So there's the blitz coming off the edge. Jordan Love making the pass, and ideally what you would like to see here, because it is a perfect call, you have a 3-on-1, right? You've got two blockers, they take them out, which means you've got one guy to beat. So if this pass is a little bit better, obviously he's got to get it over the edge. If this pass is just slightly better, a little bit lower, easier for Toure to catch, it does hit him in the hands, that's at least an easy first down. Of course, we'll see it from this other angle. He's trying to lob it a little bit, and I think that gets too far in front of Toure. Wasn't expecting it to go that far. Probably the right decision to lead him a little bit, because then that gives him momentum heading forward. But obviously that's, you know, it's not perfect. And if Toure isn't getting a lot of time with the number ones, then that rhythm isn't going to be there with Love. All right, I think the next play is going to be, we're going to be looking at some of the ball placement, the nice throws by Jordan Love. This man has been on a tear lately, and it's pretty incredible. So this is going to be a perfect pass. You already see it. Dobbs wide open. He's got two players that are converging on him, and Love is going to put this ball in a perfect spot. Some of you might have seen Dan Orlovsky already talking about this, but this is just amazing placement for the ball. He's given him the ball in a spot essentially on this kind of back shoulder. So he's already turning, and he's turning away. So he's going to be able to break upfield as soon as he gets it, because if he throws it behind, if he throws it just a bit further behind on his shoulder, this linebacker is going to be able to get his arm extended and break that up, right? And this is just a great play all around. Great throw, good rhythm, breaks a tackle, gets upfield, and DeGuara doesn't give up on the play. He sees that it's a fumble, and it might be one of DeGuara's biggest plays. That's what everyone's been saying in social media, is that this is one of DeGuara's biggest plays of the year. You know, falling on a fumble. But honestly, just great ball placement by Love. And DeGuara, way to have your head on your, head on a swivel, essentially, and recovering that fumble. All right, so next play, we've got another throw. I don't know why Jordan decided to throw this, but again, 3 steps, setting his feet. He's already driving before Kraft is out of his break, and you've got 2 defenders that are ready to kind of converge. So you've got 2, they see where this ball is going. This could be a further out, but they already see that he's setting to throw. He's taken his hand off the ball. And usually as soon as that happens, that's when the defenders are going to kind of break on the ball. So as soon as he takes his hand off, they see he's setting to throw. And again, absolute perfect spot. Absolute perfect spot. Throws it literally on the back shoulder. This is excellent quarterback play. He knows if he leads him, he gets killed, right? And this is why Tom Brady, I don't know if anyone's seen Tom Brady talk about it, but Tom Brady was saying that, the quarterbacks need to do a better job of protecting their players, protecting the wide receivers. It's their job to put the ball in a spot where they don't get killed. And this is just that perfect example. Throws it on the back shoulder, is able to get some run after catch. And Kraft has been playing super, super well. And that's just a nice play by both. And extreme confidence by Jordan Love. You're going to see the throw here from this angle. And just in rhythm, perfect throw. Gets upfield, extra yards, down inside the 15. Very, very nice job. All right, so I've got 2 more plays that I want to show for the Packers offense. One is going to be this kind of off-schedule play where Love is going to be making an off-schedule kind of scramble. He knows that these edge rushers get far upfield, and this is going to create a lane for him to step up in. And Wicks is going to be doing a very, very good job of recognizing that scramble drill. So he aborts his route. So essentially, he's going to be doing one of those kind of bench routes that's going to be towards the middle of the field, but he's going to just stop and then break back, and he's going to give Love a receiver to go to. And it's just great recognition by both Love. You can see even before, Matt LaFleur is up here at the top. You guys can barely see him. You can just see his legs, but he's like rushing to get a timeout because Love is basically saying, let's go, let's run it, come on. Doesn't matter. LaFleur was panicking, wanted to call a timeout, doesn't get it. Burns gets upfield. There's nobody else there because they've flooded the left side of the line. Wicks sees he's got, even if Love scrambles, it's going to be close. It's 3rd down, so if he scrambles, he's got to make one guy miss. But Wicks notices he's out scrambling, just abort my routes, help my quarterback, breaks free, catches it, and good concentration, able to pull it in, took a shot. I'm pretty sure he went out after this with a chest injury. He's been on the injury report since, but great recognition. That's what you want to do as a receiver is break off your routes, catch the ball, get those tough catches, and you're going to build that trust. And Wicks has done an incredible job. And last play is going to be kind of that quarterback sneak where he audibles. You can see he's putting his arms up. That means he's essentially audibling. He's saying, hey, guys, we've got a gap that's free here. We're just going to take this easy touchdown. So nice, easy touchdown there. And get to this view because this view is a little bit better. And in this view, you can obviously see, Packers had the same problem. You've got the A gap on both sides of the center. So between the center and the guards is the A gap. And if you have nobody there and you literally have a half yard to go, right? The yard line is back here. So the ball's in front of that. So you have a half yard to go in order to get into the end zone. All Love has to do is basically lay on top of his lineman and he's going to get a touchdown here. So good audible, good read, easy touchdown. And nice recognition. All right, so now after that, I'm going to start on defense, and we're going to look at the same issue that the Packers had with the A gap. But I also want to highlight some of the players that have been playing really well on defense, and then also want to kind of go into the film of what are the problems what's happening with the safeties, what's happening with the inside linebackers. That's really kind of the root of all of these problems that we're seeing when the Packers defense collapses. Right? There's a lot of communication errors, right? We hear it in the press conferences, right? There's communication issues, right? I don't know because I'm not in the building. I don't know exactly how they're coached to do certain things, but let's take a look at the defense first, and then I'll break down the different plays, show you what I'm seeing, and then, what they should be doing instead. And hopefully, they try to find some of the positives of this Packers defense and play more towards those strengths in the next games. All right, so I'm going to be a little bit quicker on the defense, I think. There's just some of the simple things that we want to look at, and we'll start out with obviously this, same thing that we had on Jordan Love's touchdown, right? Nobody in the A gap. It's, 3rd and 1, right? There's not even a yard that they need to get, and there's just nobody trying to push the A gap. And it's going to be an easy first down for the Panthers. And obviously Bryce Young got up after this, laughing. Next couple plays, I want to highlight Karl Brooks. So let's put a kind of circle around this man right here. He has been playing very, very well. And, for a late round pick, he's really coming into his own. And I think that, the Packers really see a lot in Karl Brooks, especially as a pass rusher. Right, this is going to be another pass rushing situation. So next couple plays are just kind of highlight him in the trenches. You're going to see his hands. He's already ready basically to kind of swat down the hands of 68. And this is essentially going to knock him off balance. And he's going to win that rep, significantly. And doesn't actually get anything done with it, right? It doesn't get to the quarterback, doesn't pressure him. It's a completion, but it's just kind of showing that improvement, right? And we're going to see it here. He essentially saves a big play. So just like I was talking about with offense, the play action is really going to suck in a lot of these guys, right? You can see their eyes, right? They're all just kind of looking in the backfield. They're waiting. They see that this is essentially going to be a run based on this motion, and they're ready for it to be handed off to Sanders. However, you can see the moment of panic, right? You see all of these guys slowing down, right? And they want to make sure that they're in their coverage responsibility. You still have Stokes, who's that deep third. You've got Jair, who's on this weak side. Essentially, he's supposed to be the other deep third. Owens, the middle third. Johnson here is supposed to be that flat defender, so he's supposed to get out and cover that flat. So you can see him immediately turn around. He doesn't want to get beat deep, so he kind of panics and says, oh, let's just go cover Tremble. But he should be that flat defender as well. And realistically, what should have happened is Stokes, because he sees he's got Owens over the top, Owens is going to take this deep route here. Stokes is going to take 82, and Johnson is supposed to be kind of taking this flat. Ideally, that's what you would want, but of course, that's not how it played out. And I would say the safeties are really kind of this, this stress point for the Packers, right? Because if you have pressure, right, luckily that pressure gets in there and they're able to stop this play. And you'll see it from this angle that it's really Karl Brooks that kind of wins this rep again. And he's going to get in there again, using his hands, engages, rips, swipes, gets over with a swim move, and gets quick pressure. Right? Both he and Gary get pressure, forces Young to throw it earlier than he wants, and he kind of airmails it just a little bit beyond the reach of Sanders. So what could have been a big play doesn't end up being a big play because Brooks and Gary both get pressure. All right, so the next 4 plays, I really want to focus on Quay Walker. I think he is an incredible athlete, right? Elite athlete is what you would say in terms of looking at his athletic, measures, right? That's what the Packers really look for in the RAS is they try to, get a top athlete at each of the positions because you can't really coach athleticism. You can coach everything else. But I think right now Quay Walker is really struggling in space, right? Where he's struggling to cover. And we'll see that on, there's 2 plays after these 2 that I'm going to show you that he's really struggling in coverage, but I want to highlight what he's very, very good at, right? And right now you're going to see him on a blitz. So he's blitzing over the right guard. he gets early pressure and forces him to basically go towards Preston Smith, and this results in a sack. And you're going to see the very next play. This is from the very first series, where you're going to have Quay blitz on 2 of these first 3 plays. It kind of leads to this punt, and of course Lucas Van Ness gets the penalty that extends that drive, but there was essentially a 3 and out. Right, so next play, again, you're showing this pressure. So you've got a 5-man front here, and all of them are going to rush. But Quay essentially pulling this stunt. He probably could have engaged with 66 a little bit more and let Gary wrap around. But of course, he's not, he's not a pass rush specialist in any means, but still we're going to see this pressure. Could have took a step into 66 to force him to play him. But again, on the other side, you also see Preston Smith making a nice play on the stunt. And here we've got Carolina getting the ball out quick, forcing, these passes towards the leverage. And we're going to see this here of looking at what looks like a quarters defense, right? Quarters is essentially going to have 4 guys deep, right? So you're going to have these 4 that go deep. Then you're going to have Quay, who's responsible for the outside flats. From the curl to flat, you're going to have McDuffie for the hook zone, and then you're going to have Nixon, who is supposed to be the other curl to flat on the opposite side. Right? So if we play this out, you're going to see Quay. You can see him turning his head. Right? He's trying to see. And the last thing he saw when he turned his head to the right, he saw Thielen basically going on what looked like kind of this corner route or an out route towards the sideline. And that's why you're going to see him shade a little bit more to the right. But that was really just Thielen kind of setting him up. He knows he's a linebacker. He knows he's in zone. So as soon as he gets behind him, he can make a move where he's not paying attention. Right? And that quarters coverage, you can see you've got, 1, 2, 3, 4 that are there for the deep receivers, which means you're going to have a void here because your middle hook is already occupied. Right? So this was just good play design by, the Panthers. They knew the weakness. I honestly don't think that the Packers should be playing much zone coverage with Quay Walker. I think if you give him a responsibility and you say, hey, this is your man, or hey, you need to start blitzing, he's going to be doing much better, right? Because even here, he's reading the eyes, but at this point, it's too late, right? If we kind of go back a little bit, you can see that little look towards the sideline. He's trying to keep Thielen in his peripheral, right there. At there, he sees him going towards the outside, but Thielen is an experienced route runner and is using that to basically set him up for failure. And it's a big play by Thielen. Next play, you're going to see the same thing. Essentially, Walker in space. He's got the middle hook zone this time, and it's a cover 3 shell. Looks like a cover 3 match. And the problem with that cover 3 match is because there's no one on the outside, right? So, for example, Owens would be on this curl to flat on the outside, but because there's nobody out there on a swing route or anything like that, he's just going to stick to this guy. And realistically, what Walker should do, he should see that his teammate is literally stuck to that receiver. So he needs to essentially find the next guy or just drift a little bit in that hook zone. Because if he plays, one step back, one step to the right, this throw isn't good. Right? And we'll watch it from the other angle because that gives you a better idea of what I was seeing. All right, here again, you've got the motion. You're going to have essentially him drift out to this receiver. But because he's got his eyes on the quarterback, he's watching the quarterback, he doesn't see Thielen moving behind him, so he can't help the outside defenders. Right? And by the time he reacts, it's too late. Right? If he's a step back, if he's kind of feeling out in space, he's like looking at the peripheral, he sees that Owens has this guy that he can kind of drift off a little bit and force a different pass. Force a more difficult pass for Young rather than just giving him an easy look in the middle of the field. All right, this next look is going to be back-to-back plays. right? And this is something that I've really liked about Nixon on film, is he's very instinctual. He reacts very, very quickly. It's like he does do a lot of film study, so he knows what's coming. So here you see that motion, and he just shoots the gap, right? He gets in there, he slows down Hubbard, wraps him up, gets a tackle for no gain. And that's something that, can be very, very good, right? You want corners, you want defensive players that are super reactive. They know what is coming, essentially, and they're going to use their instincts to try to force a bad play, right? And this is on the very next play where you're going to see those instincts again, and it's not necessarily going to be in a good way, right? Here he's in coverage. He knows he's got Thielen in front of him. He sees him breaking out. But instead of staying with Thielen, again, this might have been a communication issue, but he's beelining for Bryce Young. And Quay Walker, again, look at that, Quay Walker in coverage, isn't going to be able to keep up with Thielen. So this is one of those things where, communication, coaching could clarify, hey, trust your rushers, because if he stutters here, if he just waits, he's going to give enough time for Van Ness to get that tackle. He's basically making that tackle as Young is throwing that ball. If Nixon doesn't push up and he lets this pass rush catch up, it's going to be, either a very short gain or it's going to be a negative play, right? Because Van Ness is there, but Thielen gets the easy dump off catch and he gets a first down. Right, and we're going to watch this, from the other angle. So I really like Nixon's aggression. In a corner, you really want that. But in this game, he was kind of getting exposed from time to time. So here in zone, he's reading. He sees that he's got the outside, scramble, but he doesn't need to go for it. Right, he should be able to see. Right, if he's using his eyes, looking at what's happening, not only is he just looking at the quarterback, but he's also got to be able to see this teammate. And he knows that Van Ness is a freak athletically. So he should know that essentially his teammate's going to get there. He has to trust that his teammate's going to get there, but instead he tries to use his speed. He aborts his zone and isn't going to be able to, make a play. If we just go back slightly, you can already see before the ball is out of his hand, Van Ness is lunging for that tackle. But it seems like Nixon has already made that decision that I'm going to try to push up and get this quarterback. And that ends up biting the team. All right, next play. So this is where that aggression is nice. We're actually going to highlight Owens here. And this is kind of a lack of aggression. And this is just a really good block by Mingo, realistically, on the other team, right? So wide receiver here is already pushing up. And I think Owens is a little bit off balance, right? He's leaning one way already. And by the time he makes his impact, he just gets absolutely destroyed, right? But look at that space that it creates, right? Coming through this gap. As soon as he gets destroyed, he's off balance. So, he's going to lose that rep because he's already taking a step. So all Mingo has to do is get under his pads, which is exactly what he does. And he drives just enough space where it's going to only be arm tackles. Whereas if he kind of steps in, right, I think in a goal line situation, this is something that should be coached, where if you are on a goal line, these blockers are going to try to move you and seal you in different spots, right? So you have to fight. And this is something that you have to lean in and push him back as far as possible, get into his chest. You know he's going to come down and block you, but if you can just block a spot, it's going to make it very hard for this runner to find a seam, right? If he sets the edge here, not really the edge, but if he sets, that point of attack and closes up a gap, not only does it free up Nixon in case the guy does kind of loop around, it helps, Johnson as well, because if Chuba Hubbard isn't able to kind of sneak through this gap for an easy touchdown, there's going to be teammates there to make a play. All right. And that would normally be Johnson coming around and making that play, because Hubbard would be forced to try to cut back here. Right? He wouldn't be able to go there if Owens had pushed back and kept him at the 5 or 4 yard line. All right, next play is just looking at some, good positive things that I've seen. And this is, LVN, McDuffie, Enagbare. I really like their pursuit. I like what they've shown. Enagbare has actually, improved his level of play. And I've, been happy with what I've seen on film. And this is just one of those things, right? He's got great pursuits. But not only does he win the rep, right? He knows what's coming. He basically beelines off the line of scrimmage, right? He's going to force Hubbard to change his path. Hubbard knows that he's coming off the edge, so he goes a little bit further outside, and this is going to make an easier play, right? Because you can see it's kind of intended for this gap here. But coming off the edge, getting hands on him, slows him down, and McDuffie is there. LVN is there as well to make a nice play. So really just nice play. This was obviously a 4th and 2. So they knew what was coming. They knew a run was probably likely because they had been running it a lot on that possession. And they had a nice defensive stop. So it really looks to me that it's essentially a cover 6 match. And what they're trying to do here, what they're trying to accomplish is you're going to have essentially quarters, half for the coverage, which Johnson is supposed to be taking on the half of the field there. Then you've got a quarter of the field there, and you're going to have the outside quarter as well. And it's essentially this rolling coverage. But it's going to be a match principle. So they're going to be paying attention to the people that are coming out of this bunch formation. So let me take a look at this real quick. You've got the motion. So Quay is kind of matching up with him, ready to play man. But I think on this side, you've got still zone principles. And you can see that this is really stressing the safety. This is why I think it's essentially Owens who should be seeing that there's going to be a second receiver that's going to be coming vertical. But instead, Owens carries with 15. And it's going to leave Chark wide open. And we're going to see a much better angle from the other side. And here we've got Owens, and this is why I think it was a cover 6 match, right? We see Owens, he's basically walling him off to the inside. And then Owens is not realizing that there's another route that is breaking in, right? And that makes it very difficult if we go back to Stokes, in the other view. If Stokes is meant to have the outside deep half, or deep quarter rather, he's expecting someone to play this quarter as well. So you're essentially going to be bracketing any receiver that goes vertical. So you're playing these zone principles that is forcing them to try to go underneath, and you're preventing the big play, but you have a communication issue that is going to lead to this touchdown, because you'll see it more clearly on the other angle, but you see Jonathan Owens there putting his hands on his head as if he had made a mistake. So this is something that probably should have been passed off. Owen should have seen, okay, he's taking this route too far inside. I should pass it off to 36. And instead, I need to help on the other vertical threats. And you can see him, hands on his head. I don't know if it's because, there was a touchdown in general, if that's just his reaction at all. But then what he does afterwards is kind of him hitting himself on the chest, saying, that one's on me. So I think it was kind of that cover 6 match that, they were running there and didn't end up working out in their favor. All right, this we saw a little bit earlier as well. It's that kind of panic on the play action. All right, here you've got that motion. They've done the end around a few times at this point to number 11, so they have to be a little bit aggressive. So you see the backers, both of them moving that way. Good play action. But now you're going to have to see everyone else panic to get back into coverage. And this is what seems to be a cover 3. And we'll go back to the original formation, but let's go back here. It looks to be a cover 3. And a cover 3 essentially is going to have your 3 deep. So in this 3 deep, you're going to have the safety, which is going to be coming up. And it's probably like a buzz weak, which means you're going to have the safety, which is going to be taking the curl to flat. So he's going to be out there. Stokes is going to be taking the deep third. He's rotating over. He's going to take the deep middle. And then Jair is going to have the other deep third. Right? And then McDuffie is going to have that curl to flat. And then the middle hook zone is essentially where Quay Walker is going to be. So you're going to see this once we actually play it out, that Johnson knows I'm supposed to be in the flat. And you've got Stokes doing a good job because he knows he's got help over the top, basically bracketing that deep receiver. So Stokes actually played that well. It's just a matter of this play action. When you're playing in zone, your eyes get stuck in the backfield. So here they think, oh, it's a fake. But then because that play action fake is to the other side of the field, he's essentially going the wrong direction, and he's not going to be able to get to his zone responsibility. And it's going to be an easy completion and an easy first down for the Panthers. All right, and we'll see it from the other angle as well. There you go, play action, everyone bites, and then all of a sudden the panic sets in. Johnson basically sprinting over to the sideline, trying to make that tackle. Gets there, but they do get a first down from that. All right, this is a play that we've seen a lot with other defenses, and a lot of other defenses are running this kind of it's a hot zone blitz. So it's a cover 0 look. A cover 0 look is you're basically flooding this line of scrimmage, right? You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players that are there on the line of scrimmage, and all of those players are giving this kind of appearance of, oh, we're going to be all rushing, right? And this is essentially what's going to be happening. And instead of being man-to-man in a normal cover 0, you're essentially going to be matched up here with man. You're going to be matched up here with man. You're going to be matched up here with man. You're going to be matched up here with man. And then obviously this safety is just kind of floating because this back is probably going to be in protection. And if it wasn't in protection, if it was a swing, he would be basically beelining it to that player, right? But this is a hot zone, which means it's a cover 0 with zone principles. So ideally, what you've got here is your nickel is going to drop into that hot zone. And then you're going to have guys playing over the top, or he's going to be playing a deep responsibility. This guy should also be playing a deep responsibility. This safety should drop up. And then you also have another deep responsibility. So you've got all of these guys at the line of scrimmage that are going to be sending it. So you should have a 6-on-6 or 6-on-5, depending on their protection, which means you should be getting there for a sack. But that's not necessarily what happens. The problem here is these two safeties are doing the wrong thing against trips. The hot zone, you're supposed to be dropping the opposite side of the nickel. So here you have the nickel, who is Nixon. He is dropping into this hot zone. Basically, they're playing man underneath in their zone. And Owens, instead of being here, should really be on this line. And then instead of being here, Johnson should be up because he's basically responsible for the deep middle. Stokes is responsible for the deep third, and Jair responsible for the other deep third. So you would want essentially Owens stepping up and playing the other hot zone, because if you're sending 6 guys at the quarterback, you're going to get pressure. You're going to force a quick throw by having 2 guys basically hop underneath on what would be the hot route, right? If they do a quick in route like that, this safety should be in position. Same thing on this side. If they do a quick in route to get the quarterback's, quick passes out to avoid this pressure, that's essentially going to free them up, right? And this is not what the Packers do. Johnson again in coverage, dropping into the hot zone, and it forces Jair into a bad spot. And then, of course, we get the personal foul penalty after this. but it forces Jair into a bad spot, right? If we go further back, Jair is now here because he is responsible for protecting the deep part of the field. He can't let anyone get past him. He is also outside, right? If we look, essentially this receiver is inside of Jair. You can't let him go outside, which is already putting him at a disadvantage, because as soon as this pass happens, he's not going to be able to break on it and make a play, right? He does get there. He makes contact. Chark is able to catch it. He drops the ball at the end there. And then you have this nice little scrum for the football, and then a nice personal foul, even though a Panthers player just went in the pile literally a second before. But we'll see this from the other angle. Now just imagine the safeties are split the other way. Imagine this safety is here, which would be what? So you've got 50, the 40, the 30-yard line. So he'd be at like the 29, which is roughly where Johnson is on the other side. And if this safety was up here, you would still have that deep third. So let's see where this completion takes place. Oh my goodness. If he was standing at the 29, that throw doesn't happen. It's crazy. That's crazy. But obviously, you know, that's something that if it was incorporated recently, maybe they're not too comfortable with it. You know, it's a trend that's been happening. The Vikings have run it. We've seen a bunch of other teams run this concept. So it is something that is in the NFL world. I don't think it's anything brand new, but it is, you know, something where there could be miscommunication with the safeties. All right, next play. We'll go back to the start. This is a cover 2, and this is a 3rd and short. It's a 3rd and 2. So essentially what they are doing here is just a cover 2 zone, traditional cover 2. And this is the play that made me laugh, because before this snap, you don't see it here, but you caught it on the broadcast. Bryce Young gets out of the huddle as they're lining up. Bryce Young basically, you know, prays, saying, you know, we need to hit this play. And I know I said to my friend who I was watching the game with, I was like, they're gonna take a shot here. And that's surely what they do. You've got a cover 2 zone, you've got 2 deep. So they are taking the deep half of the field. And then essentially, because this is a short pass, you've just got a cover 2 sink all the way across. So they are dropping, you know, 5-10 yards and trying not to let anything behind them, because they're expecting this throw to be short, right? They're expecting this throw to be quick underneath, and that way they can break down and break up the pass. And you're essentially going to get a pump fake here, which is going to stress this outside defender. Jair already in a bad position. As you can see, he's got to choose, do I play this guy or this guy? Jair chose to play him, tried to play the middle in between the two, and that's just enough time for Young to make this play. Lobs it up. Jair can't make the play. A nice hit. Obviously draws a penalty. Tries to, you know, it's really hard to play defense now, because if you try to dislodge the ball, leads with the shoulder, doesn't really look like a defenseless receiver. It hits him with the ball, still catches it. Really nice catch by Chark, but not much you can do there. All right, this looks like the touchdown that Carolina scored, and it's good coverage. So this is a cover 1, and it's essentially cover 1 lurk. You still have the middle linebacker that is dropped in this kind of lurk zone. You have the 1 high safety, and then it's man everywhere else. And you do have good coverage. Forces this kind of scramble out, and there's really nothing you can do. There's nothing Stokes could have done to play that any better, right? Maybe if he has a little bit more breakaway speed, but I don't think speed is an issue for Stokes. Plays very tight coverage. We lose contain, so Enigbara gets too far upfield. Quay abandons his zone, tries to get pressure on the quarterback, gets his hands up, gets big, and then this throw is just absolutely perfect. Literally just above the fingertips of Stokes. If Stokes gets if he grows by just a few inches, he breaks that up. And it's just a nice touchdown for the Panthers. All right, here we have the end around. And this is where we get to see Gary lose a little bit of contain. He doesn't get far enough upfield. All right, and this must have been something that the Panthers saw on film. Gary is very aggressive on third down, but in the early downs, he can be a little bit passive where he doesn't get upfield consistently. And this is something that they saw. So you see he's kind of expecting that there's going to be some sort of back taking the ball here, and he doesn't set the edge. So if he sets out a little bit further, he's going to be able to make a play. All right, but here he's already beat. There's nothing that he can do to make that play. So he kind of starts jogging here. And then you've got Alexander not able to wrap up. And then Johnson, good job to try to strip it, but that was an easy touchdown for the Panthers. You'll see it from this angle as well. Gary needs to really kind of extend out here and set the edge, especially since he knows he's got a blitzer going there. Quay Walker blitzing. And Gary doesn't get far enough upfield to stop this end around. But, plays like that happen, so it's not the end of the world. And this is going to be a stick nod from what I can remember. So you've got cover one again. Packers played a lot of cover one, which means it's going to be man underneath. So everyone is locked in with a man. But it also could be some sort of zone. But to me, it looks like it's more cover one. Or essentially, you've got one deep, and then you've got your lurker, that middle linebacker that's going to be lurking. And I don't know if it was a zone or what, because it looks like McDuffie starts to play towards zone, or it looks like he thought the play was over, or that maybe he had help, but I'm not too sure. Because he makes contact. So the only other thing that I'm thinking, it could be a cover three, which means they're in zone. And he's expecting to have a deep third. Jair also a deep third. Stokes a deep third. That's what this rotation kind of looks like. So if it's a cover three, you essentially have Nixon for the flat, Johnson for the other, or Owens for the other flat. And then you're going to have two hook zones with the two linebackers. So with that, if it probably looks more like a cover three. Here, he's already beat. So they're matching up underneath in their zones. So it's basically a zone with man principles on the get off. Right? Try to get hands on them. Try to disrupt the timing. Hope that pressure gets to the quarterback. But that's not necessarily something that happens every play. And at this point, the double move was already too late. So by having one high safety, that seam is just wide open. If you want to beat cover three, you have to attack the seams, and this is exactly what that route does. Forces him to get out. McDuffie turns, looks for the ball, but at that point, he probably should have just stuck in man. He probably should have just stayed with his man rather than turning around and thinking that somebody else would be in his zone. But, it's just a nice play. And Carolina had a few good plays, nice play design, which is why they were able to come back on the Green Bay Packers. And of course, my original preview, I said it's going to be a close game. It was going to be a 3-point game. I thought it would be a lot lower scoring because I thought the Panthers defense would put up a little bit more of a fight. But, the Packers offense, Panthers offense, both looked like they did really, really well. Really good things in this game. All right, and this is going to be the end of the game. So the very end of the game. And we've got a lot of things happening here. Not really a lot, but we've got 3-man deep. And you're going to see that Owens is going to recognize. I don't know why Owens did this. He's the middle of the field. Unless they wanted to, double this number 2, which or the number 3 rather. So it could be a 2 deep and then a double, because based on this leverage, it's outside leverage, him on the inside. So it's possible that both of these guys are keying in the number 3 and they end up going to the number 2. And that's just not going to work because, again, you have outside leverage as well. I think realistically, this has got to be like a 3 deep Tampa 2 type play, but with man underneath. And I think Owens just takes the wrong guy here. You can see him point. He recognizes what's coming, but he's already made his decision of going the opposite way, right? So I think Owens here just really didn't have a great game. I would say Johnson and Owens really not ideal in terms of this game. Quay Walker not great in coverage, and they're going to get that play. And if they had literally one more second, you can see everyone running to the line. Even all 22 caught this. You know, quickly look up at the score. You know, look up at the clock. 3, 2, 1. The snap goes off, spike, and that's the end of the game. So that's essentially kind of the issues of the Packers defense. Is the safeties and the inside linebackers are really struggling in coverage right now. And if you know, those are the 2 areas that get you beat deep. That's where your broken plays happen. And hopefully they can figure out, you know, ways to solve this, because it does actually look like what they were saying, communication issues. I don't know if it's a coaching issue. Like, was this the play design where they coached Owens to say, hey, we're going to take the number 3 here? Or was he supposed to stay in the middle of the field? All right, I feel like in this situation, you know, if they catch it in bounds, it's going to make it very tough for them. So I think in this situation, they were probably coached, hey, just don't let them get to the sidelines. Don't let them get out. All right, so Owens takes that into his mind and sees this deep crosser. And, you know, it leaves the middle of the field open and potentially a play that is going to tie up the game. And luckily it didn't. But that's going to do it for this review. Obviously a very, very long film review. I'll probably cut a lot of the stuff that I've recorded just to make it a little bit simpler and a little bit easier to digest. But that's the Carolina game, all broken down, offense and defense. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this review. Thank you guys for staying and watching. I appreciate anyone who tunes in. Obviously, I'm just getting started off this channel, focusing on the Green Bay Packers, but of course I want to do other NFL teams as well, looking at football in general, football concepts, eventually teaching the game of football as well. But I'm just getting it all off the ground, looking at the Packers to start. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you guys learned something from this as well. And I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.